The presentation, the conference room on the 48th floor, gleamed with floor-to-ceiling windows. Outside, Manhattan sprawled like a kingdom waiting to be conquered. Jade Rivers stood at the head of the mahogany table, her laptop open and her presentation flawless. She had spent 4 weeks preparing this proposal, perfecting every detail and polishing every slide until it shone. Her navy blazer was crisp and professional. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail. Her voice was steady as she addressed the room full of executives. But there was one person who hadn't looked up from his phone even once. Damian Cross, the CEO himself. The billionaire who built an empire before age 35, challenging the status quo. Jade's jaw tightened. She had heard the rumors about him. Cold, calculating, impossible to impress. But she hadn't expected him to be so openly dismissive. She moved to the next slide, raising her voice slightly to command attention. Our market analysis shows a 42% increase in consumer demand for sustainable products. If we pivot our marketing strategy now, we can capture this demographic before our competitors even recognize the shift. Finally, Damian looked up. His dark eyes met hers, sharp enough to cut glass. His face was all hard angles and controlled expression, the kind of face that never revealed anything it didn't want to. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed over his perfectly tailored charcoal suit. 42%, he repeated, his voice low and level but edged with skepticism. And how much will this pivot cost us in the first quarter? Standing her ground, Jade didn't miss a beat. $3.2 million. But the projected ROI within 18 months is substantial. And we'll position ourselves as industry leaders in corporate responsibility. Damian raised his hand, cutting her off mid-sentence. Her blood began to boil. Stop, he stood, every inch of his 6'2" frame radiating authority. Miss Rivers, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but this company doesn't chase trends. We set them. Sustainable marketing is a buzzword that will be obsolete in 2 years. Jade felt her hands clench into fists at her sides. She forced herself to breathe, to stay professional. With all respect, Mr. Krause, the consumer behavior data suggests otherwise. If we ignore this shift, we'll lose market share to competitors who are already adapting. The breaking point, his eyes narrowed. Are you questioning my judgment? The room went silent. Every executive seemed to shrink into their chairs, avoiding eye contact. Jade knew she should back down. This was her first major presentation since joining Cross Industries 3 months ago. One wrong move could end her career before it truly began. But she hadn't gotten this far by staying silent. I'm questioning your refusal to look at the evidence, she said firmly. The data is clear. We have an opportunity here, and if we don't take it, someone else will. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Damian walked around the table, his steps measured, until he stood directly in front of her. He was close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and woody that made her pulse quicken despite her anger. The unexpected move. You have a lot of nerve, said quietly, his voice dangerous. Most people in this building are afraid to even look me in the eye. And here you are, a junior strategist, telling me I'm wrong. Jade lifted her chin. If being right means having nerve, then yes, I have plenty of it. Something flashed in his eyes. Amusement, anger, she couldn't tell. The silence stretched between them like a wire pulled taut, ready to snap. Then Damian did something she never expected. He smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator before it strikes. You're fired, he said simply. Fighting back, Jade's heart stopped. What? You can't fire me for having an opinion. Actually, I can. I own this company. He turned to leave, dismissing her completely. That's when Jade snapped. She grabbed his arm, spinning him back to face her. The entire room gasped. Do you have any idea how hard I worked on this presentation? Do you know what I sacrificed to be here? And you won't even listen because your ego can't handle the possibility that someone else might be right. Damian's jaw clenched, his eyes blazing. Let go of my arm. No, Jade shot back. Not until you actually listen to what I'm saying instead of dismissing it because you're too stubborn to consider that you might be wrong about something. The kiss that changed everything her. Words cut off sharply because Damien moved faster than she could process. In 1 second, she was mid-sentence, and in the next, his hand was at the back of her neck, pulling her forward, and his mouth covered hers. The kiss was hard, commanding, and absolutely infuriating. Jade froze, her brain short-circuiting. Every nerve in her body lit up like fireworks. His lips were warm and demanding. She hated that her traitorous heart was racing for all the wrong reasons. Then reality crashed back. She shoved him hard, her palm connecting with his chest. He stepped back, eyes wide, as if he couldn't believe what he'd just done. Jade's breathing was ragged. Her face burned. She could feel every pair of eyes in the room on her. And in that moment, she made a decision. She slapped him. The sound echoed through the silent conference room like a gunshot. Damien's head jerked to the side, his hand slowly rising to his reddening cheek. The aftermath, Jade's voice was ice cold. "Don't you ever touch me without my permission again." Then she grabbed her laptop, shoved it into her bag, and walked out of the conference room with her head held high, even though her hands were shaking and her lips still tingled from the kiss. Behind her, she heard whispers, but Jade didn't look back. She had just slapped a billionaire CEO in front of his entire executive team. Her career was over. So why did part of her feel so alive? The elevator encounter. Jade made it to the elevator before her knees started to shake. She jabbed the button repeatedly, her heart pounding against her ribs. What did I just do? The elevator doors opened, and she practically fell inside, pressing herself against the back wall. When the doors started to close, a hand shot through, forcing them back open. Damien stepped inside. "No," Jade said immediately, raising her hand. "Absolutely not." The doors closed behind him. They were alone. "We need to talk," he said, his voice hoarse. Jade laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "Talk? You just kissed me to shut me up, and now you want to talk?" "The revelation I didn't mean to." Damien ran his hand through his dark hair, messing up his usually perfect appearance. It was completely out of line. "I apologize." "Oh, you apologize. How noble. You assault your employees and then apologize. That's your legal strategy?" The elevator descended in tense silence. Jade could feel the heat radiating from him, could still taste him on her lips. She hated it. Hated him. Hated that her body had betrayed her with its reaction. "Why did you do it?" she asked quietly. Damien stared at the descending floor numbers. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely louder than a whisper. "Because you wouldn't stop talking, and I couldn't think clearly." Jade blinked. "That's possibly the worst excuse I've ever heard." "I know." He turned to her, and for the first time she saw something other than cold calculation in his eyes. She saw confusion, frustration, and something else she couldn't quite name. "The unexpected offer. You've been here 3 months, he said. 3 months, and you've submitted 16 proposals. All of them brilliant. All of them challenging everything we do." Jade's breath caught. "You read my proposals?" "Every single one." His intense gaze pinned her in place. "You're the most frustrating person I've ever met, Miss Rivers. You question everything, refuse to back down. And you make me want to," the elevator chimed, announcing their arrival in the lobby. Damien stopped mid-sentence. The doors opened. Jade should have walked out, should have left and never looked back. Instead, she heard herself ask, "Want to what?" He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a dangerously low register that made her stomach flip. "That's what I'm trying to figure out." Before she could respond, her phone vibrated. She glanced at the screen. It was her best friend Riley. "Emergency. Need you now." The decision. Jade looked back at Damien. His expression had become unreadable again, that impenetrable mask back in place. "I need to go," she said. Damien nodded. "You're not fired?" "What?" "Consider it my apology. You're not fired." In fact, he pulled out his phone, typing quickly, "You'll receive an email tonight. New contract. Double your current salary." Jade's eyes widened. "You're promoting me after I slapped you?" He almost smiled. "I'm promoting you because you were right. About the sustainable marketing. About all of it. I was too stubborn to admit it. This has to be a trap," Jade said suspiciously. It's not. His gaze met hers, and for a moment she saw past the CEO mask to something vulnerable inside. I don't apologize often, Miss Rivers, and I definitely don't kiss women in conference rooms. You bring out something in me that I don't understand, but I want to. Making the choice, Jade's phone buzzed again, Riley, more insistent this time. She really did need to go. But as she looked at Damien, at this man who had just turned her world upside down, she felt something shift inside her. I need to think about it, she said, stepping out of the elevator. But before she could walk away, Damien called out, Miss Rivers? She looked back at him. Never kiss me without my permission either. This time, his smile was real, completely transforming his face. Jade walked away, her heart racing and her mind spinning. She had no idea what had just happened or what it meant. She only knew that everything had changed. Outside the building, Riley was waiting in her car with the engine running. Jade slid into the passenger seat. You look like you've seen a ghost, Riley said, pulling into traffic. What happened? Jade touched her lips, still feeling the phantom pressure of Damien's kiss. I think I just made either the biggest mistake of my life or the best decision. I can't tell which. Riley's eyes sparkled mischievously. Sounds like it requires wine and details. Lots of details. As they drove through the city, Jade's phone chimed. An email from Damien. She opened it with trembling fingers. It wasn't just a new contract. It was an offer to lead the sustainable marketing initiative, working directly with him, which meant working side by side with the man who had just kissed her senseless. Jade leaned her head back against the seat and closed her eyes. What am I getting myself into? Is that a rhetorical question? Riley glanced at her. Or do you actually want my opinion? Both, Jade admitted. Riley laughed. Well, judging by your expression, I'd say you're getting into something complicated. Probably inappropriate and definitely exciting. Jade couldn't argue with that. She stared at the email, her thumb hovering over the reply button. She should decline. Should transfer to another department. Should put as much distance between herself and Damien Cross as possible. Instead, she typed 2 words. I accept. She hit send before she could change her mind. Riley caught the movement. What did you just do? Jade smiled, feeling reckless and alive in a way she hadn't felt in years. Something possibly very stupid. Riley's eyes gleamed with mischief. Good. You've been playing it safe for too long. Jade wasn't sure if stupid and safe were mutually exclusive concepts, but she was about to find out. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Damien. 3 words this time. Monday. 8 sharp. Jade's heart skipped. She replied, I'm never late. His response was immediate. We'll see. And despite everything, despite the chaos and the confusion and the fact that she just slapped her boss in front of the entire executive team, Jade found herself smiling. This was either going to be a disaster or the beginning of something extraordinary. Maybe both. Monday morning arrives. Monday morning came with rain drumming against the windows of Jade's apartment. She stood in front of her closet for the 3rd time, surrounded by discarded blazers and rejected blouses. This is ridiculous, she muttered, pulling off a gray jacket. You're not dressing to impress him? You're dressing for work. Her reflection in the mirror looked unconvinced. Eventually, she settled on black pants, a crimson blouse, and her favorite blazer, the one that made her feel powerful. She pulled her hair back, applied minimal makeup, and grabbed her bag. If Damien Cross wanted to work with her, he was getting the professional, business version, not the one who let him kiss her. She arrived at Cross Industries at 7:45, determined to beat him there. The executive floor was quiet. Most employees wouldn't arrive until 9. Jade headed to the office specified in Damien's email, her heels clicking on the marble floor. The door was already open. Working. And outlined. He ditched his usual tie. His white shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms that had no business being so distracting. You're early, he said without turning around. So are you, Jade replied, setting her bag on the glass desk. Apparently neither of us sticks to our schedules. He turned, and Jade's breath caught. In the gray morning light, he looked different, less intimidating, almost human. "I wanted to talk before we start," he said. "About Friday." Jade straightened. "If you're trying to explain what happened, I won't be explaining. I'm setting boundaries." Set his coffee down, his movements deliberate. "What happened in that boardroom was unprofessional and completely inappropriate. It won't happen again," Jade said. Though a tiny traitorous part of her felt disappointed. "We're colleagues now. Nothing more." His eyes met hers. "Nothing more," he agreed. But there was a weight in his voice that suggested those words cost him something. They stood in silence, rain tapping the windows. Then Jade pulled out her tablet, switching into work mode. "So, the Sustainable Marketing Initiative. Where do we start?" Relief flickered across Damien's expression. He grabbed a folder from the desk. "I reviewed your original proposal. There are elements that need refinement, but the core concept is solid. We present to the board in 3 weeks." 3 weeks? Jade's eyes widened. "That's not much time, which is why we'll be working closely. Very closely, sharing stories." Something in his tone made her pulse quicken. She ignored it. "Fine, but I have conditions." He raised an eyebrow. "You're negotiating with me now?" "Always," Jade said firmly. "First, my ideas don't get watered down to make the board comfortable. If we're doing this, we do it right. Second, I want creative control over the presentation. And third, if you ever kiss me without permission again, I'll do more than slap you." Damien's lips twitched. "Agreed? And my conditions?" Jade crossed her arms. "I didn't know you had any." "I have one," he said, moving closer. His voice dropped. "If we're going to work together, you need to stop looking at me like that." "Like what?" Jade challenged, refusing to back down even though he was close enough that she could smell his cologne again. "Like you're trying to decide whether you want to slap me again or kiss me back?" Jade's cheeks flamed. "That's not true. I'm not wrong, am I?" He watched her, and Jade realized with horror that he wasn't wrong at all. She did want to kiss him back. Had wanted to since Friday. But she'd rather die than admit it. "You're arrogant," she said instead. "Accurate," he agreed. But that wasn't an answer. Building trust, Jade grabbed her tablet like a shield. "We should start working." "Yes," Damien said quietly. "We should." But he didn't move, and neither did she. The tension between them was so thick you could cut it. Finally, Jade broke eye contact and opened her files. For the next 3 hours, they fell into a rhythm. Damien was brilliant, she had to admit. He saw angles she'd missed, asked questions that sharpened her thinking. They argued, yes, but these were productive arguments, the kind that made ideas better. Around 11, Jade's stomach growled loudly. Damien looked up from his laptop. "When did you last eat?" "Breakfast yesterday," he frowned. "That's not breakfast. That's starvation." "I was busy," Jade said defensively. Damien closed his laptop with deliberate care. "We're taking a break." "No. We have a deadline." "I don't care." He stood, grabbing his jacket. "You're no good to this project if you pass out." "Come on, I'm buying you lunch. This isn't a date." "It's basic human decency," Damien said firmly. "Let me feed you." She wanted to refuse on principle, but her stomach betrayed her by growling again. "Fine," she agreed. "But somewhere quick. We need to get back to work." The Italian restaurant, 20 minutes later, they were in a small Italian restaurant 3 blocks away. It was cozy, almost intimate, with red checkered tablecloths and candles, despite the daytime hour. "This doesn't look quick," Jade noted suspiciously. "They have great pasta and fast service," Damien answered. Pulling out her chair, "Trust me. Trust you, the man who kissed me to win an argument. That's not why I kissed you." His expression darkened. "Then why did you?" The question hung between them. Damien sat across from her, his jaw working like he was fighting words he couldn't quite speak. Because in that moment, he finally said, "It was either kiss you or completely fall apart." "And I don't fall apart." Jade's heart hammered. "That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now." A waiter appeared, saving them from the charged moment. They ordered, Damien choosing wine, despite Jade's protests that they were working. "One glass won't kill you," he said. "It might help us survive each other." Jade couldn't argue with that logic. Personal revelations, when the wine came, she took a large sip, letting it warm her. "This is surreal," she said. 3 days ago, I was a junior strategist. Now I'm having lunch with you." Damien swirled his wine, watching her. "Do you regret accepting the position?" "I don't know yet," Jade admitted honestly. "Ask me again when we're not walking this line between whatever this is." He leaned forward slightly. "What is this, in your opinion?" Jade met his gaze directly. A very bad idea wrapped in good intentions. Damien's slow smile was devastating. "I built an empire on bad ideas. Maybe that's the problem," Jade countered. "Maybe you need someone to tell you no. Is that what you're doing? Telling me no?" The question seemed loaded with more than professional subtext. Jade took another sip of wine, buying time. "I'm saying if we're going to work together, we need clear boundaries. No more impulsive kisses, no more whatever happened in that elevator." He studied her with an unreadable expression. "And if I said I don't want boundaries? Then I'd say you can't have everything you want just because you're rich and powerful." Something flashed in his eyes. Maybe respect, maybe challenge. Noted. Learning about each other, the food arrived, breaking the tension temporarily. For a while, they ate in companionable silence. Outside, the rain continued, creating a cocoon atmosphere. "Why did you become a strategist?" Damien asked suddenly. Jade looked up, surprised by the personal question. "Why do you care?" "Because," Damien said, setting down his fork, "I've read all your proposals. Each one shows someone who wants more than just money, someone who wants to make things better. I want to know why." Jade hesitated, running her fingers along the rim of her wine glass. "My father worked in a factory his whole life, 40 years at the same plant. When I was 12, they downsized. He lost everything, his pension, his pride, his purpose." She paused, the memory still vivid. "I watched him wither after that. He couldn't find work because he was too old, too expensive, too specialized. The company didn't care that he'd given them his life. They only cared about profit." Damien listened without interrupting, his full attention on her. "So I decided I'd get inside the system," Jade continued. "Learn how it works from within, and change it if I could." Her gaze met his. "Make companies remember there are real people behind the numbers. That's why I work so hard, why I don't back down. Because my father couldn't afford to be heard, but I can." The silence that followed was heavy with understanding. "I'm sorry," Damien said quietly. "About your father?" Jade shrugged, trying to seem casual, though talking about it still hurt. "He died 5 years ago, never seeing me graduate or get this job. Sometimes I wonder if he'd be proud of me, or if he'd think I sold out by working for people like you." She stopped abruptly. Realizing what she'd almost said, "Damien opens up people like me," Damien finished for her. There was no anger in his voice, only acceptance. Jade winced. "I didn't mean to say that. You're not wrong." He leaned back, his expression distant. "My father built this company from nothing. He was ruthless, calculating, and he taught me that sentiment is weakness, that caring about people makes you vulnerable." "But you don't believe that?" "I didn't think I did," Damien said. "Then you walked into my company and challenged everything I thought I knew. You made me realize I'd become exactly like my father, someone who values profit over people." Jade's chest tightened. "Is that really why you kissed me? Because I made you uncomfortable?" He laughed, but the sound was hollow. "No, Jade, I kissed you because for the first time in my life, someone made me feel something other than ambition, and it terrified me." The admission hung between them, raw and honest. Jade didn't know what to say. Didn't know if there was anything to say. "We should get back," she finally managed. "Yes," Damien agreed. But neither of them moved. The gala event, the rain had stopped by the time they returned to the office, leaving the city clean. Jade and Damien fell back into work, but something had shifted. They were still professional, still focused. But now there was an undercurrent. An understanding of each other that made every accidental touch of hands feel electric. By 6 in the evening, They'd made significant progress on the presentation. Jade was packing up when Damien spoke. There's a gala this weekend. Industry event? I need you to come with me. Jade froze. As your colleague? As my partner on this project, he clarified. We'll be presenting our initiative informally to potential investors. It's important. She turned to face him. Important for the project or important for you? Both, he admitted. These events are exhausting. Usually I go alone and spend the evening answering questions about why I don't have a date. If you're there, we can deflect the personal questions and focus on business. Jade raised an eyebrow. So I'm your buffer? You're my very intelligent, very capable buffer, he said with a slight smile. She should say no. Should maintain distance. But the way he looked at her, like she was more than just a colleague, made her reckless. Fine, she said. But I'm not pretending to be something I'm not. I wouldn't ask you to, Damien replied. Just be yourself. That's more than enough. Preparing for the gala, the week flew by in a blur of work and stolen glances. Damien kept his word, maintaining professionalism. But there were moments when Jade caught him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. When they stayed late working by lamplight, and the silence felt more intimate than any conversation, Friday arrived too quickly. Jade stood in front of her closet again, this time facing a real crisis. She didn't own a single gown suitable for a gala. Riley arrived with reinforcements, a garment bag, and determination. I borrowed this from my cousin, Riley announced. Unzipping the bag dramatically, Jade's breath caught. The dress was stunning, a deep emerald green with a fitted bodice and a skirt that flowed like water. It was elegant and bold and completely not her. I can't wear this, Jade said immediately. This dress says I'm trying too hard. This dress, Riley corrected, says you're confident and stunning, which you are. Jade tried it on, and even she had to admit it fit perfectly. The color brought out her eyes. The neckline emphasized curves she usually hid under blazers. You look incredible, Riley breathed. He's going to lose his mind. That's not the point, Jade reminded her. Sure it isn't, Riley said with a knowing smile. The gala night at 7:30? Jade's doorbell rang. She opened it to find Damien in a classic black tuxedo, looking like he'd stepped off a magazine cover. But it was his expression when he saw her that made her feel beautiful. His eyes widened, his breath caught. He looked stunning, he managed. Just a dress, Jade said. Grabbing her clutch to hide her trembling hands. It's not just a dress, Damien replied quietly. And you're not just anything, Jade. The car ride to the gala was filled with last-minute strategy discussions, both using work as a shield against the tension building between them. But when they arrived and Damien offered his hand, Jade took it. And something shifted. They walked into the ballroom together, and for better or worse, there was no turning back. The gala was held at a historic hotel, all gilded columns and crystal chandeliers. The ballroom sparkled with Manhattan's elite. Women in designer gowns, men in custom tuxedos, champagne flowing freely. Jade felt Damien's hand on her lower back, warm and sure as they navigated through the crowd. She could feel eyes turning toward them, whispers following in their wake. Is that Damien Cross? I heard he never brings dates. Who is she? Jade lifted her chin, refusing to be intimidated. She'd faced boardrooms full of hostile executives. She could handle a party. Meeting the competition, Mr. Cross, a silver-haired man approached, his smile too wide. Good to see you. And who is this lovely creature? Jade Rivers, Damien said smoothly. My partner on our new sustainability initiative. She's brilliant. The man's gaze assessed her with barely concealed skepticism. Partner. How progressive of you, Damien. Jade extended her hand, shaking firmly. Nice to meet you, Mr. Wallace. Wallace runs Wallace Industries, Damien supplied. Jade ran through her research. Your company specializes in traditional manufacturing. You've had some recent issues with environmental regulations, correct? Wallace's smile faltered. We've handled those challenges admirably, by paying fines instead of modernizing processes. Jade's tone was pleasant, but her words sharp. Damien mentioned your company lost to major contracts last quarter to competitors offering greener alternatives. Perhaps we should discuss how our initiative could help you stay relevant.
Alice's face reddened.
Now look here, young lady. Excuse us, Damien interjected, leading Jade away with barely suppressed amusement. That was diplomatic, he murmured in her ear. He told me to be myself, Jade replied. I don't do pretending. His quiet laugh sent shivers through her. The dance the next hour they spent circulating, and Jade discovered she was actually good at this. She could read people, find their weaknesses, turn conversations to their advantage. Damien stayed close, occasionally adding input, but mostly watching her work with something like pride in his eyes. Then the music started. Couples moved to the dance floor, and Jade felt her stomach tighten. Dance with me, Damien said. It wasn't a question. I don't dance, Jade lied. Everyone dances, he replied. Already leading her to the floor, she wanted to protest, but he'd already taken her hand, his other arms circling her waist, and they began to move. Damien was an excellent dancer, confident and smooth, guiding her effortlessly. Jade tried not to step on his feet, but it was impossible not to notice how perfectly they fit together. You're tense, he noted. I'm trying not to embarrass us both, she retorted. Impossible, he said. You could never embarrass me. Their eyes met, and Jade's breath caught at the intensity there. The ballroom seemed to dissolve. The music became distant. All she felt was his hand on her waist, his thumb drawing circles that sent warmth through the fabric of her dress. Why are you looking at me like that? She whispered. Like what? Like you're trying to memorize me. 'Cause I am, Damien admitted. In case you disappear? I'm not going anywhere, Jade said, then realized how it sounded. I mean, we have 3 weeks until the presentation. I know what you meant. His voice dropped lower. But I hope you'll stay longer than 3 weeks.
Right.
We agreed on boundaries, yes, he acknowledged. But right now, in this moment, I'm finding it very hard to remember why. The breaking point, the song ended. They stopped moving but didn't separate. Around them, couples were pulling apart, but Damien's hands remained on her waist. Jade's on his shoulders. I need air, Jade said abruptly. Pulling away, she wove through the crowd to the terrace, her pulse pounding. Outside, the cool night air helped. New York's lights spread below like fallen stars. Jade gripped the stone railing, trying to steady herself. Are you running? Damien's voice came from behind her. I need space, she corrected. Not turning around, his footsteps approached until he stood beside her. Close but not touching. I pushed too hard. Jade laughed shakily. You kissed me to shut me up, promoted me, made me your partner. And now we're at a gala where you're looking at me like I'm more than just a colleague. Yes, you pushed too hard. But she turned to him, and her next words surprised even her. I'm terrified because I want you to. Damien's expression shifted. Something vulnerable broke through his controlled mask.
How?
Jade, you need to understand something, she cut him off. I don't do casual. I don't play games. If this, whatever this is just entertainment for you, tell me now so I can protect myself. It's not, he said fiercely. God, Jade, it's not. I haven't felt this off balance since I can't remember when. I don't know what you're doing to me, but every time I'm near you, forget how to be the person I've spent my whole life becoming. Then who are you? Jade asked softly. Damien looked at her, and for the first time she saw behind the CEO mask someone younger, more uncertain. I don't know, he admitted. But with you, I think I want to find out. Jade's breath caught. This was dangerous territory. This was exactly what she'd promised herself to avoid, and yet she stepped closer. If we do this, there are rules, she said. Rules, Damien repeated, his lips curving. You love your terms, don't you? I'm serious, Jade insisted. First, work stays work. We don't let personal feelings compromise the project. Second, honesty always, even when it's uncomfortable. And third, if either of us wants to stop, we stop. No questions, no hurt feelings. Damien's hand rose to cup her cheek, his thumb brushing her skin. Agreed. Though I should warn you, I'm very bad at stopping once I've decided I want something, and you've decided you want me? I decided that the moment you grabbed my arm in the boardroom, he said. Maybe even earlier. When you presented your first proposal and I realized someone finally saw the real problems beyond the empire. You made me want to be better, Jade. You made me want to be someone worthy of your view of the world. The choice, the confession broke her. Before she could overthink it, before doubt could creep in. Jade rose on her toes and kissed him. This time it wasn't anger or impulse. It was deliberate. A choice. Damien froze for half a second, then pulled her close and kissed her back with a hunger that stole her breath. The world tilted. Jade fisted her hands in his jacket, anchoring herself while he deepened the kiss. He tasted of champagne and possibility. And she couldn't get enough. When they finally broke apart, breathing hard, Damien pressed his forehead to hers. This, he said hoarsely, was so much better than the first time. Jade laughed, breathless. Low bar, considering the first time was assault. That wasn't assault. I was teasing, she said, pulling back slightly to look at him. But you're right. This was definitely better, 'cause you wanted it, he said. It wasn't a question, 'cause I chose it, Jade corrected. There's a difference. Damien's expression softened in a way she'd never seen before. They stood together on the terrace. The party continuing inside, the city lights twinkling below, and for the first time in years, Jade felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Come home with me, Damien said quietly. Jade's heart stopped. Just to talk, he added quickly. I have wine, a better view than this, and no one will interrupt us every 5 minutes. We can discuss the project, plan our strategy. Just us. Jade knew she should say no. Knew going to his place would cross a line they couldn't uncross. But when she looked in his eyes and saw not just desire, but genuine hope, she nodded. Okay, but if this is a trick to seduce me, I'm stealing all your wine and leaving. Deal, he said with that devastating half-dash smile. As they left the gala together, Jade knew everything was about to change. The media would notice. People would talk. Her career might never be the same. But as Damien's hand found hers in the car, their fingers intertwining naturally, she realized she didn't care. For once in her carefully planned life, she was choosing the risk, and it felt absolutely right. After morning sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows when Jade woke in unfamiliar surroundings. For a moment she was disoriented before the previous night flooded back. She was in Damien's bed, wrapped in impossibly soft sheets, wearing a shirt, oh God. She sat up carefully, heart pounding. Damien wasn't beside her. For one horrible moment, her old insecurities surged back. He regretted it. He was gone. This was a mistake. Then she heard movement in the kitchen, the clink of dishes, and smelled coffee brewing. Jade exhaled shakily, pressing her hand to her chest. Get it together, Rivers. She found her dress from last night draped carefully over a chair, her heels placed neatly beside it. The thoughtfulness in that small gesture warmed her chest. Barefoot. She padded to the kitchen, wearing Damien's shirt that fell to mid-thigh. He stood at the counter, back to her, wearing only pajama pants slung low on his hips. Jade's mouth went dry at the sight of his bare shoulders, the play of muscles as he moved. Good morning, she said quietly. Facing reality, Damien turned, and the expression on his face when he saw her, soft, unguarded, openly pleased, chased away her last fears. Good morning, he replied, his voice still rough from sleep. Coffee? Please, Jade said, sliding onto a bar stool. She probably should feel awkward right now, but somehow she didn't. Damien poured 2 mugs, sliding one toward her. I didn't know how you take it, so I made it strong and black. We have that in common, Jade said, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. Among other obvious things, his lips curved. What obvious things? Jade felt her cheeks heat. You know what? He set down his coffee and came around the counter until he stood in front of her, his hands resting on the counter on either side of her, caging her in without touching. Say it, he challenged gently. Are you making this difficult? Jade complained, 'cause I want to hear you admit it. Last night was real. We slept together, and I want to make sure you don't regret it in the harsh light of morning. Jade met his gaze directly. Do you regret it? Not even a little, Damien said. But I know how doubt works. I know how easy it is to let fear convince you that something good is actually dangerous. So tell me where your head is. Working through doubts, Jade sighed. I'm terrified, she admitted. Terrified this is happening too fast, that I'm falling for you and you'll break my heart. That Monday we'll go back to work and realize we've complicated everything impossibly. She paused, then raised her hand to touch his face. But I'm also happy. Happier than I've been in a long time. And I don't want to run from that just because it's scary. Damien turned his head, kissing her palm. Monday, he said, we'll be fine. We'll go to work, be professionals, and then I'll spend all day counting the hours until I can be alone with you again. That's probably not healthy. It's probably not, he agreed. But I don't care anymore. They spent the morning together. A lazy weekend morning that felt both surreal and completely natural. Damien cooked breakfast while Jade sat at the counter, stealing fruit and telling him stories about her disastrous college years.
It's here?
Telling me, Damien said incredulously, that you hacked the university grading system to fix an error? I didn't hack it, Jade corrected. I simply noticed a vulnerability in their security and brought it to their attention after using it to fix my grade. That was the professor's mistake, Jade defended herself. He entered the wrong score. I was just correcting an injustice. Damien shook his head, grinning. You're going to be the death of my carefully cultivated reputation. I fight for what's right, Jade shrugged. Always have. He served eggs and toast, joining her at the counter. That's one of the things I admire most about you. You have principles that don't waver. It must be exhausting sometimes. 'Tis, Jade admitted. But I watched my father lose his battle. Someone has to keep fighting. The storm breaks, they spent the rest of the day together, talking, laughing, watching a movie neither paid attention to because they were too busy discussing everything else. It felt easy, natural, like they'd been doing this for years instead of ours. But as evening approached, reality crept back in. I should go home, Jade said reluctantly. I need to prepare for Monday. Stay, Damien countered. We can prepare together.
Oh.
Jade wanted to. God, how she wanted to. But some instinct told her she needed space to process everything, to make sure she wasn't diving too deep too fast. I need room to think, she said honestly. Not about us, just to process everything. Damien looked disappointed but nodded. I understand. Let me drive you. In the car, Damien's hand found hers, their fingers interlocking. Monday, he said. We present a united front. Professional, but genuine. We don't hide, but we don't make a spectacle of it. Agreed, Jade said. Though people will talk anyway. Let them talk, Damien replied. I've spent my whole life worrying about appearances. I'm done. He pulled up to her apartment, turning to her. Jade, these last few days have been amazing, terrifying, and overwhelming. But they've also been the most real thing I've experienced in longer than I can remember.
Oh.
Jade studied his face, searching for doubt or deception. She found only sincerity and a desire so strong it took her breath away. Me too, she whispered. She kissed him, soft and sweet. Thank you for what? For making me remember I'm human too. The accusation Monday morning arrived with complications Jade hadn't anticipated. She'd barely stepped off the elevator when she noticed the stairs, the whispers following her down the corridor. By the time she reached her new office adjacent to Damien's, she knew something was wrong. Her computer screen immediately showed it. An email from Human Resources marked urgent. A meeting scheduled for 9 in the morning. And below that, a string of messages from colleagues she barely knew, some expressing support, most just curious. Then she saw the article. Someone had leaked photos from the gala. Jade and Damien dancing, standing together on the terrace, getting into his car together. The headline made her stomach drop. CEO's new conquest. Damien Cross mixes business with pleasure. The article was brutal, painting her as an unprincipled opportunist who seduced her way to a promotion. It questioned her qualifications. It implied the sustainability initiative was a vanity project to keep his latest girlfriend happy, and suggested Damien was having a midlife crisis. Jade's hands shook as she read. All her fears about these relationships were being confirmed by strangers on the internet. A knock on her door made her jump. Damien entered, his face grim. I saw it, he said without preamble. This is character assassination, and I'm going to handle it.
Ow.
Jade asked, trying to keep her voice steady. By issuing a statement, sending official letters, and making it clear you're a brilliant strategist who earned your position through merit? Not by sleeping with me, not by sleeping with you, Jade finished bitterly. That's what everyone thinks. That I'm just another woman in the billionaire's orbit, not a real professional. Fighting back, Jade. People who matter won't think that. Everyone matters, she countered. Every employee here, every client, every investor. If they think I'm just your girlfriend playing at business, our entire initiative loses credibility. And we prove them wrong, Damien said firmly. We present the project, show them your expertise, and make you impossible to dismiss. A sharp knock interrupted them. Patricia Hunt, head of public relations at Cross Industries, burst in without waiting for permission. Her expression was grave. We need to talk, she said. Both of you, immediately, in Damien's office. Patricia spread out a folder full of printed screenshots. The story is spreading. Twitter, business networks, industry blogs. Everyone's talking about it. And it gets worse. She paused, looking at Jade with something like sympathy. Your ex is giving interviews. Jade's heart stopped. What? Apparently Trevor has no problem throwing you under the bus, Patricia said bluntly. He's confirming you've always been ambitious and willing to do whatever it takes to climb the career ladder. The room spun. Of course it was Trevor. He'd never forgiven her for leaving him, for refusing to be diminished. That's slander, Damien growled. We can sue. A lawsuit makes it worse, Patricia interrupted. It'll look like you're trying to silence legitimate concerns. The only way to handle this is to address it head-on. She turned to Jade. I need you to give me something. A statement, an interview, anything that humanizes you and establishes your credentials independent of Damien. Taking Controlja's throat tightened. What if I don't want to be part of this media circus? Then the circus happens without you, and you lose control of the narrative, Patricia said. Not unkindly, but firmly. Right now, you're a mystery. People are filling in the gaps with the worst possible assumptions. Give them the truth, and they'll have less room to speculate. I'll do it, Jade heard herself say, but on my terms. I want to talk about the sustainability initiative, my background, why this project matters, not about my relationship with Damien. That's private. Patricia considered it. I can work with that, but understand they will ask about him. You need to prepare an answer. Jade glanced at Damien. His expression was unreadable, but she saw the tension in his shoulders. We're colleagues who respect each other, Jade said. That's the answer. Everything else is nobody's business. After Patricia left, Damien moved to the window, his back to Jade. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Sorry that being with me has brought all this down on you. I should have anticipated it. Can't anticipate human cruelty, Jade replied. She joined him at the window. But Damien, if this doesn't stop, if it continues to affect the project, we might need to reconsider our approach. He turned to face her. If it continues to affect the project, what? You'll walk away? Jade's eyes stung. I don't want to, but I also won't let my personal life destroy something I believe in. If the initiative fails because of us, then we need to make sure it doesn't fail. It won't fail, Damien said fiercely. We'll work harder, present better, prove this has nothing to do with our relationship and everything to do with good business. The interview was scheduled for Wednesday. 2 days to prepare, 2 days of watching the internet dissect her life, trying to focus on work. Jade barely slept. When she did, she dreamed of standing before a crowd that laughed at her credentials. Tuesday evening. She was still in the office, rehearsing answers to anticipated questions. When Damien found her, Go home, he said gently. You're exhausted. You need to be ready, Jade insisted. I can't give them any ammunition. Jade, he knelt beside her chair. You're already ready. You're the most prepared person I've ever met, but running yourself into the ground won't help. She looked at him, at this man who had somehow become the center of her life in just weeks. What if I mess this up? What if I say something wrong and prove them right? Then I'll still believe in you, Damien said. Your worth isn't defined by public opinion or some interview. You're brilliant, Jade. That's a fact, not a perception. His faith in her, unwavering and absolute, brought tears to her eyes. How do you do this? She whispered. Make me feel like I can handle anything when inside I'm falling apart? Because you can handle anything, he replied. I've watched you do it. You took on a boardroom full of executives, challenged a billionaire CEO, and refused to back down even when it meant risking everything. This interview is nothing compared to what you've already survived. Revealing the truth, the interview took place in a sleek downtown studio. Furnished with modern furniture and intimidating equipment, the journalist, Rebecca Torres, is known for her sharp questions and unwillingness to accept corporate spin. Jade sat across from her, hands folded in her lap to hide their trembling. Reminding herself to breathe, Rebecca started casual, asking about Jade's background, education, work experience. Jade answered clearly, emphasizing her years of experience. The proposals she'd written, the results she'd achieved. Then Rebecca leaned forward. Let's talk about what everyone's really interested in. Your relationship with Damien Cross. Did it influence your promotion? My promotion, Jade said firmly, was based on merit. I presented a comprehensive proposal for sustainable packaging that projected significant ROI. Mr. Cross recognized the value of that proposal. Our personal relationship developed later. But you were in a relationship, Rebecca pressed. Yes, Jade admitted. We're dating. But that doesn't diminish my qualifications or the validity of the initiative. Some might argue it creates a conflict of interest. Working closely with someone you're romantically involved with, some might argue, Jade countered, that judging a woman's professional competence by her personal life is sexist. Nobody questions male executives who hire their fraternity brothers or golf partners. But a woman dates a colleague, and suddenly her entire career is suspect. Standing strong, Rebecca's eyebrows rose, and Jade caught a flash of approval. Your ex gave an interview suggesting you've always been overly ambitious. Overly ambitious, Jade repeated. That's the word men use when they want to criticize a woman for wanting success. My ex couldn't accept that I put my career first. He needed someone who would make him the center of their universe. When I refused to make myself smaller to make him comfortable, he left. Now he's trying to punish me for it. And Damien Cross doesn't mind your ambition? Damien, Jade said, feeling softness in her voice she couldn't help, challenges me, pushes me to be better, think bigger. That's what a real partner does. They don't diminish you, they elevate you. The interview continued, but Jade felt the shift. Rebecca's questions became more constructive, less hostile. By the end, Jade had laid out the entire sustainability initiative, explained the market research, projected the financial benefits. She'd made it impossible to dismiss her as just a pretty face or an opportunist. When the segment aired that evening, the response was immediate. Social media lit up, but this time the tone was different. Women praised Jade for refusing to apologize. Industry professionals commented on the compelling business case she'd presented. Even some early critics admitted they'd judged too quickly. Jade watched the broadcast from Damien's office, hard in her throat.